Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Would those on the floor and our guests in the gallery please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by the pastor Jesse Wagner of Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Charleston, West Virginia, and then please remain standing as we are led in the pledge this morning by the senator from Preston, Pastor Wagner.
Shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we pause to give you thanks for the gift of this day, the gift of your presence with us, for the gift of, Lord, of this land that we call our home. We thank you for the state of West Virginia, and we thank you, Lord, for all of these who have gathered to do your business today. We simply and humbly ask your blessing upon all the senators here gathered and all who work so hard to support them. Father, may they sense your presence and your guidance in the weighty decisions and the tasks that they are called upon to perform. We give you thanks and we ask these favors in the name of our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Senator from Preston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will all those in the gallery please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The reading of the journal.
West Virginia Legislature, Senate Journal, January 22nd, 2018. The Senate met at 11:11.
The senator from Wood County requests unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Introduction of guests. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As guest of the senator from Greenbrier, we have Randy Douglas, Madison Wilson, and Emily Withrow. If they would all please rise and the Senate give them a warm welcome. Further introductions, the senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple of introductions today, but I'll start off. I want to give an extra special thanks to our doc for the day, who is Dr. Mary Ann Maurer of Huntington, West Virginia, and she's here for the second time already this session, so she's pulling double duty. If she would stand and the Senate make her welcome. Also, Mr. President, I have the pleasure of introducing a good friend of mine representing HealthSmart, company today with over 350 employees here in West Virginia and a PEIA administrator, Mr. Lauren Claypool. If he would stand and the Senate make him welcome.
Further introductions, the senator from Preston County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Tucker and myself, we're pleased to have in the North Gallery today a constituent from Grafton, West Virginia, John Taylor, who's also a volunteer with the AARP. John, if you'll stand up and the Senate make him welcome.
Further introductions, the senator from Greenbrier County.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to Emily, Randy, and Madison, who are here today as our pages, I'd like to introduce Randy's mom. Sarah Minter is here. If you'd please stand so we can recognize you. And Madison's mom, Sarah Hambrick. Will the Senate please make them feel welcome?
The senator from Boone County. Senator has an additional introduction. Senator from Greenbrier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry about that. I'd also like to introduce my friends from Greenbrier County High Rocks who are here this morning. If you would please stand. We had a wonderful policy discussion in my office this morning, and I think they could rival my good friend from the senator from Harrison in policy debate. Will the Senate please make them feel welcome?
The senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Logan, we're very pleased to have visiting us youth and government students from Madison Middle School. Their teacher, J.D. Turley, students Anna Burns, Jalen Browning, Kyle Matthews, Will Thompson, and Selena Lynn. If they would stand, the Senate make them welcome. Further, Mr. President, on behalf of the senator from Logan, we have some students from Chapmanville, Jordan Hicks, Brooklyn Hill, Zoe Kirk, Sydney Markham, Taylor Miller, Jacob Muffett, Catherine Muncie, Caleb Owsley, Bailey Senator, Brittany Smith, Amber Stokes, Carrie Sullins, Charles Toney, Savannah Toney, Abigail Triplett, Emily Triplett, Andrew Williamson, Bethany Williamson, Madison Williamson, Evan Willis, and Josh Zigman. If they would stand, the Senate make them welcome.
The senior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased today to introduce to you visitors. I'm not sure what gallery they're in, but Patricia Pope is here, the Executive Director of the West Virginia Real Estate and Appraiser Licensing Certification Board, and one of her board members, Ann Wilson Worley. So if they would stand, the Senate and make them welcome.
The senator from Marion County.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. It's my pleasure and the pleasure of the senator from Montague and the senator from Brooke to introduce our guests from Fairmont State University. We have several faculty and staff. We have Jessica Sell, if they would stand as I call their names, and we'll make them welcome. Carolyn Tracy, Bud Sapp, Graham Glenn, Bill Harrison, Harry Baxter, and Megan Gibson. We also have several students: Dylan Bradley, Abby Sharp, Alex Vance, Alyssa Tribot, Bailey McIntough, Brittany Mullins, Gatsby Ryder, Jacob Fisher, James Schaefer, Katie Chafin, Lauren Manchin, Michael Shaw, Nicholas Rabbi, and Rachel Fitzwater, and Tyler Kelly. If the Senate would make them welcome. I'm sorry if I butchered your names.
The senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to you. With us today, Mr. President, we have guests of ours from Morgantown and from Fairmont, and on behalf of the Senior Center, we do, from Marion County, we do welcome them. If they'll please rise when I say their name. With Pierpont Community College, one of my favorite community colleges here in the state, we have with us Michael Wade, Lila Grandstand, Skylar Summers, who is also a student with the culinary program there at Pierpont, and my favorite guest in the building today, my wife, Rachel Beach. And then also guests we have with us this afternoon or this morning, Mr. President, and our good friends from Preston County and Morgantown are Dylan Jones and Sheila Castile Coleman. If they'll both please stand. Thank you.
Further introductions, the senator from Monroe County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Greenbrier, I'd like to welcome a group from Monroe County today with the youth and government and their teacher, Miss Ashley Mann, and Colonel Scott Womack is our head of our junior ROTC program back in Monroe County. And also I see up in the top gallery also one of our veteran great teachers at Peterstown Elementary School. I think he started his 36th, maybe 37th year this year, Mr. Wayne Spangler. And also on the front row of this group is one that's very special to me as well, and that's my oldest daughter, Brianna, in the group. So I'm glad to have them all. If they all would stand and the Senate make them feel welcome. Thank you.
Further introductions? Further introductions. Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 3089 relating to the adoption of instructional resources for use in public schools.
Communications will be received and referred to the Committee on Education.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4002, providing that all delegates shall be elected from 100 single districts following the United States Census in 2020.
Communications will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4013, clarifying venue in West Virginia state courts as it applies to non-residents of the state.
Communication will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Engrossed House Bill 4026, exempting cashiers from licensure under the Larry W. Border Pharmacy Practice Act.
Communication will be received and referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources. Further communications?
No, sir.
Communications from the Executive.
I have a letter dated January 23, 2018, addressed to the Honorable Mac Warner, Secretary of State. Dear Secretary Warner, pursuant to West Virginia Code 310.5, I have this day appointed the Honorable Karen Lynn Arvon of Raleigh County, West Virginia, as a senator representing the 9th Senatorial District to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of the Honorable Jeff Mullins from this day through the remainder of the unexpired term of said office. Sincerely, Jim Justice, Governor.
Communication will be received and the senator will be welcomed. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. Reports from standing committees.
Your Committee on Natural Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 30 relating generally to hunting with dogs and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received. Report will be received under the bill's original double committee reference will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 67 exempting DNR police officers' pensions from state income tax and committee substitute for Senate Bill 116 providing court costs collected under Second Chance Driver's License Program are not subject to 5% offset, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Reports will be received.
Your Committee on Natural Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 143 permitting DNR identification tag be used to identify trap, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration the following bills relating to DEP rules relating to hazardous waste management system. Senate Bill 155, Senate Bill 156, Senate Bill 157, Senate Bill 158, Senate Bill 159, Senate Bill 160, Senate Bill 161, Senate Bill 162, Senate Bill 163, and Senate Bill 164, and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Reports will be received.
Your Committee on Natural Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 234, DNR rule relating to wildlife disease management, and has amended same, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 311, specifying consumer sales and service tax exemption for purchase of certain services and tangible personal property related to aircraft, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Report will be received.
That's all I have, sir.
Reports from select committees.
There are none.
Introduction of bills. The Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill number 339 through Senate Bill number 350 be considered and introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
The Senator from Ohio requests unanimous consent that Senate Bills number 339 through Senate Bills number 350 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Resolutions.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 7 by Senators Takubo and Stallings requesting federal government grant waiver for required waiting period for tubal ligation procedures.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over 1 day. Further resolutions?
Yes, sir. Senate Resolution 14 by Senators Mann, Stallings, Rucker, Klein, Boso, Carnes, Maynard, Baldwin, Prezioso, Beach, Plymel, and Drennan, designating January 23rd, 2018 as Higher Education Day.
The senator from Monroe County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, and committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
The senator from Monroe County requests unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and that the resolution be placed upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 14 designating Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018 as Higher Education Day at the Legislature.
The question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? The senator from Monroe County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is a true honor to present this resolution, recognizes our colleges and universities and all that they do for our state of West Virginia. Higher education institutions are an essential part of the state, both culturally and economically. More than ever, West Virginia needs highly educated and skilled individuals to meet the ever-changing economic challenges that the state is facing. These institutions offer a number of opportunities for our students to achieve their education and career goals and prepare them to meet the workforce, the needs of the state. West Virginia's colleges and universities advance the development of technology, partner in business and industry, conduct groundbreaking research, artistically enrich the state, excel in the humanities, prepare future educators and leaders, and improve lives through innovative health care. West Virginia's higher education institutions open the doors for for all of our students. And with that being said, as Chairman of Education, it's an honor and a privilege for you all to be here today. And I greatly urge the adoption of this resolution. Thank you all.
Further discussion, the senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this resolution, but I also would like to bring up a couple pertinent facts that we all need to be cognizant of. Dr. Gilbert from Marshall gave me an article yesterday that highlights that West Virginia over the last couple of years has been in the bottom 3 states per funding for higher education. We got to stop that. And that's the only really thing I want to say about that. It's a real good article, and I'll be glad to make sure that that's on everybody's desk here in the next couple of days. Higher education is important to this state. It's important for our workforce. But let me also talk about Senate Bill 284, that is the Community and Technical College and Career Education Bill. That's important to us. That's important to this state, that we get that bill out of the Senate quickly, and that we articulate that we're ready for higher education to play a major role in our workforce for the future. I applaud the governor for bringing this up, and I applaud the Senate President for standing out on this issue. There's nothing free in this bill. What's free is the fact that we give a free opportunity to our students in the state of West Virginia, that they will have a life in West Virginia, that we're going to prepare them for the workforce. And that's what the real key of this is that the workforce of tomorrow requires great preparation, and you'll earn more a lot of times coming out of a 2-year degree and institution. Now, this is not to diminish the importance of a 4-year institution and a 4-year degree, but we've got to start here, and we've got to start the hemorrhaging on the budgets for higher education. But I would really want to tell you that we have an opportunity tomorrow to get the bill out of Education Committee, and I really do believe that we've had a really good discussion in the last meeting. Let's move it forward. Let's give them the opportunity that they need to help prepare the workforce for tomorrow. And Mr. President, I thank you for your leadership on this too.
Further discussion? Further discussion? The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too agree, and the senator from Wayne, it's running today. That bill's going to be today. So I was sitting here preparing for it, and I was going to do, my remarks here later today, but I'll do it now. Forgive me, I started through it, and one of the reasons why I'm like this is I am one of these people that it benefits. The community and technical colleges, I didn't go to that, but I did go to James Rumsey after high school. And that's a technical school from in the Eastern Panhandle. And done many, many different classes, whether it be welding, computers, refrigeration, electricity. The list went on and on. I'm one of these students that was affected more than probably anybody in this chamber by the ability to use my hands and learn from my hands. Senate Bill 284 tomorrow, or today, is one of the biggest things I think that we've ever done in this body. I know it is, other than fixing workers' comp since 2003. It's going to, if everybody notices, the relationship to drug usage correlates with people like me getting bored in high school. And I've said this over and over, and it's redundant for the people here, but it's not for the people that's standing at the back of the chamber. The boredom of having to read Moby Dick and Old Man to Sea and stuff like that instead of a trade journal and learning how to do something gets to people like me. And what happens is this piece of legislation offers a light, a hope into the future. And one of the things that we're trying to do in this building is to create jobs, opportunity, hope, and the ability to raise your family in West Virginia. This piece of legislation does just that, in a minimum amount of money. It's $7 million and it's last dollar in. It's a phenomenal piece of legislation, and I can tell you it's going to have ripple effects. It's going to have ripple effects in the ability to, for people that are going to, they see a better choice than doing drugs. They have an opportunity. Gainful employment. It decreases the demand on all the entitlement programs that we have out here, and it allows the need to be there for those that are truly in need and when they are truly in need. Nothing could be better, in my opinion. I'm so excited about this, and these people at the back of the chamber are the ones that's going to implement this and make it work into the future, and we're going to see dividends that's going to go on for decades. Mr. President, so again, I started out a little slow, ended with a big smile on my face, because this is, again, a hallmark piece of legislation, I believe. And I look forward to voting on the floor in the next 4 or 5 days. Thank you.
Further discussion, the senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I had not intended to speak this morning on this issue. I am very grateful for this crowd that I see here standing at the back of the room. And to the members in here, we often, we'll recess for a second, we'll go up here and do a photo. But I challenge each one of you to search out someone back here with the community college system. Cozy up to them. Have your photo taken here, because these are the folks that's going to make this work for us. And it also puts a stamp on this. The community colleges are here to stay. And that's the message we want to send loud and clear across the state of West Virginia. Community colleges have a role in the education system here in the state of West Virginia. I'm happy to welcome each and every one of them here today, and thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that remarks by the senator from Monroe, the senior senator from the 5th, the senior senator from the 15th, and the senator from Monongalia be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Senator from Ohio requests unanimous consent that the remarks by the senior senator from the 5th, the senior senator from the 15th, the senator from Monroe, and the senator from Monongalia be printed in the appendix of the journal. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. The senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in brief recesses for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Senator from Ohio moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purposes of presenting the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. Further resolutions?
No, sir.
Motions? Petitions?
There are none.
Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent to return to the fourth order of business.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Standing committee reports?
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 351, originating in committee relating to ballot commissioners, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
That's all I have.
Unfinished business.
There is none.
Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 146, correcting technical error within Solid Waste Management Act. Third reading of the bill.
The question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 146 does what the short title suggests. It corrects a technical error in a single section of the state code. It's Chapter 22, Article 15, Section 10, which is within the Solid Waste Management Act. In 1994, the West Virginia Legislature did a big rewrite of solid waste management laws. And so the whole act was enacted then. When this section was originally enacted in 1994, it grandfathered certain landfills that were in compliance before a date certain, 1988. And that law stayed the same. The statute was amended in 1998, and then again in 2016. And when we amended it in 2016, there's a typo in this section, and the grandfathering date was changed from 1988 to 1998 by mistake. And so this bill will correct that and restore the original grandfathering date, which was April 1st, 1988. There are some other changes in the bill which are purely stylistic and cleanup. Be happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, urge passage of this bill. And say, we did this last year. This was one of the bills that last year we tried to fix it, and we got it out of the Senate, but it didn't get across the finish line before the 60-day session ended. Urge passage of the bill.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will please prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
The senator from Ohio County moves that the bill be made effective from passage and requests unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, there being 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent and not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Further bills on third reading?
No, sir.
Bills on second reading?
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 37, equalizing penalty for entering without breaking regardless of time of day. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 39, creating Sexual Assault Victims' Bill of Rights. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 75, relating to seller transfer of video lottery locations. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 134, authorizing Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management to engage individuals for emergency response and recovery. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 292, relating to Commission on Special Investigations. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senators Woelfel and Trump move to amend the bill on page 7, section 5.
The senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I seek unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Senator from Cabell requests unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this the bill in general does is to sort of modernize the Commission on Special Investigations. Special Investigations is shrouded for good reason under a veil of secrecy and confidentiality. And what this amendment does is ensure that all the records obtained by the Commission are in fact confidential and stay that way. I've had the privilege of serving all 4 sessions that I've been here on this joint committee, and I can tell you that when it comes to abuses of power, corruption within our state government, whether you're an elected official of the highest order or whether you're the line employee for Division of Highways, the Special Investigations Commission is keeping their eyes open, and they perform a very valid and important function in our state government. So I urge adoption.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to 3rd reading. Further bills on 2nd reading?
No, sir.
Bills on 1st reading?
There are none.
Introduction of guests. Remarks by members of the Senate. The senator from Logan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to basically bring up, last week kind of spoke a little bit about teachers. Last night, I participated in a meeting with teachers. And I just want to let it be known that, this is not something that we are going to be able to just look away and it not come back on us. I will tell you that there are a lot of angry people across our state. And it's not just teachers. It is everybody who falls under the PEIA system. And that's, the bus drivers that safely protect our children going to and from school, the police officers that respond to our 911 calls, the ambulance operators, the firefighters, the state employees that if they decided not to come to work today, we'd shut down. I will tell you that this is a big deal. And we must figure out how we can work together to do something. I plan to work with others to push legislation, just like my senator from Braxton County spoke about, by raising gas severance. We gave coal away in our state. That had nothing to do with any of us. That happened decades ago. But coal was given away. Now we have natural gas that's coming. If you drive through Beckley, you can see thousands of pipes that are sitting on the side of the road that are waiting to be shoved into our cup. And there will be billions upon billions of dollars that will be pulled from our state. And if we allow that to go and not think of the citizens of West Virginia, then shame on each and every one of us. Because once again, billions upon billions of dollars, everybody in here wants to do, regardless of what party we are on, regardless. I know that my senator from Monroe over there cares deeply for his people. And he has teachers, bus drivers, police officers, firefighters, correctional officers. He has them in his county as well, in his district. We have got to really stand up, and we need to do something to make sure that all this money that's going to be leaving our state also benefits the citizen of our state. If the money that we have heard is true, there's no reason why we cannot fully fund PEIA. When we start pushing bills saying we want to raise the gas severance 2.5, 3%, 4, 5, I don't care. We need to realize that money can go and finally do something for our people. Not only do we need to do something for PEIA, which is absolutely cruel with some of the things that they're pushing. This 360 PEIA that says, first off, you have to have it. And you have to use a smartphone. But nobody's stepping up and saying, we're going to buy these teachers their smartphone, or anybody else that's going to be under this. And you know that they want your measurements of your waist and your hip size, because you know that if you happen to put an inch on, it's going to raise your premiums. But I don't know of any teachers out there that have the opportunity to go to a gymnasium, because they spend all day long in the classroom. Many teachers forego taking certain medications that make them urinate because they're not allowed to leave the classroom. And during the breaks in between the classroom, their responsibility is to stand in the hallway to make sure the kids are moving and there's no fights and things like that. When they get done with work, they have to plan their next day of events. And then they have to go home and they have to grade papers all night long. When do they get to go to the gym? The teachers across our state are not happy with the people that are running this program. And they feel that the people that are running it are cruel. But guess what? We're the ones who appoint these people. We're the ones during the confirmation say yes, yes, yes. Maybe we need to start once again paying attention to the people that truly are affected by this. And I know we can do it. And I know each and every one of us are willing to work together to do what we can for our teachers, for our bus drivers, for the secretaries that sit in those schools, for the custodians that clean up those classrooms, for the police officers, for the firefighters, for the correctional officers. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, when I said that a volcano was about to erupt, we are in that situation, and we can solve this. We need to take a stand and do whatever we can. We need to go ahead and let the gas companies that are coming into our state that are going to make billions, we need to let them know that we expect for them to do something for our citizens. Because make no mistake about it, if they look at us and they say, well, we're not going to pay it, I can assure you they can leave. And there'll be 10 people standing behind them saying, we'll work with you, because they know no matter what, if we raise the severance 3%, 5%, they know that they're going to still make billions upon billions of dollars. Let's not let that go with not making sure that we do something for the people that truly matter in this state. The working class citizens, the sick, the elderly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further remarks? Further remarks? The senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take a minute to speak about the life of my good friend, Joe Ciccarelli. Joe was passed away yesterday, and he was started out at the Huntington Police Department, but went on to have a stellar career with the FBI. And any major investigation in southern West Virginia in the last 10, 15, 20 years, Joe was probably heading that investigation. He was only 60 years old. He came back to be the Huntington's police chief a couple of years ago, which is a daunting task in and of itself. But my last memories of Joe, he and I were holding down the very back pew at Mass. So I know he got right at the end and probably was right from day one. But he's in a better place, and I would ask that we just have a brief moment of silence in his honor.
Would everyone please rise and observe a moment of silence? Amen. Please be seated. The senior senator from the 5th.
Request unanimous consent that the remarks by the senator from Cabell and the senator from Logan be placed in the appendix of the journal.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Further remarks, the senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to rise for a second and thank the entire Senate and certainly all my Democratic colleagues, but particularly my Republican colleagues, for all of the nice thoughts and prayers. And several of you appeared at my mom's funeral, and I can't tell you how much appreciated that was. Showed us that we're all family, showed me. And, you know, my mother was a great person. She was kind of a pioneer in her own right. She was the first, one of the things she achieved, she was the first female patrol person. I always thought they were called patrol boys, but, you know, patrol person in West Virginia. I thought that was a a neat thing that she did. But most of all, she raised me and my 3 brothers from the time my dad died when I was 15. And I know every one of us went to college, every one of us got advanced degrees because of her. But sitting through that whole funeral and everything, it kind of reminded me that what we all do here is pretty insignificant. I mean, our goal should always be to put people first. That's what my mother always did. She had almost 1,500 people come through her funeral, and she was afraid nobody would be there because she was so old. She was 90. But they were all people who knew her and appreciated her because she always put people first. And, as we sit here, I thought about that because I was worried you guys were doing something bad while I was up there. I really was. I came back, you did a great job, so I'm pleased. But as I sat there, it made me realize that what we ought to be doing is putting the citizens of West Virginia first. And think about that. We all claim to be Christians. We all know what Jesus says. My friend from Braxton County down there preaches to me on a daily basis, and I miss Senator Miller because he preached to me on a daily basis. But, Jesus said we should take care of the least among us. If we call ourselves Christians, we really ought to live those words and take care of the least among us. And if we do that, whether it's a person who's, a half step down or 20 steps down, we take care of those who are the least among us. We'll be doing our job, and we'll leave a legacy here that we can all be proud of when we're gone. Because, when you're gone, all you leave are the good works that you've done. So, again, I wanted to thank everybody. It meant the world to me. My friend, the senator from Marion County, and senator from Braxton, senator from Brook. So many of you I saw, senator from Preston. So many of you guys came by. It just really meant the world, and thank you.
Senator from Marion County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the remarks by the senator from Harrison be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Further remarks? The senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick reminder to all the senators here that there's a school choice luncheon that is available for everyone immediately after this session. It's in the Lewis McManus room.
Are there further remarks by senators? Not. Miscellaneous business. The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Subject to announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m., and I do have one announcement, Mr. President.
The senator may proceed.
Thank you. To all the members, you should be receiving an email or some sort of notification today, but I wanted to make an announcement here on the floor as well. On behalf of the President, the Minority Leader, myself, and others that supported Senate Concurrent Resolution 6, Mr. Woody Williams, who I'm sure doesn't need any sort of introduction or background, asked and is coming here tomorrow to address the Senate and the House at 10 a.m. here in the Senate chambers regarding that resolution, what it means to him. His foundation has been supporting the efforts on that. And so if you're available at 10 a.m. tomorrow, appreciate it if you all could be here. Many of our House colleagues will be joining us as well. And then it'll just be a brief sort of ceremony where Mr. Williams will address us and talk about the importance of that resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further announcements. The chair has an announcement. The chair appoints Lynn Arvon, Senator Arvon, to the Committees on Finance, the Committees on Health and Human Resources, the Committee on Banking and Insurance, the Committee on Pensions, and the Committee on Workforce. Chair has also an announcement in which the senator from the senior senator from the 15th will be appointed to the Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining. And one further announcement, the chair removes the senator from Morgan from the Committee on Health and Human Resources. Are there further announcements? The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Senate Finance Committee, Subcommittee A, will meet today at 3 p.m. And we'll have budget presentations from the West Virginia Department of Revenue and Lottery. Thank you.
The senator from Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Education Committee will meet today at 2 p.m. in Senate Finance. The agenda is posted, and look forward to taking care of our 284 bill today.
The senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Judiciary will meet today at 3 p.m. in the Judiciary Committee, room 208 West.
The senator from Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Due to your recent appointment to the Energy Committee, we are not going to meet today. But no, your Committee on Energy will not meet today. We will meet on Thursday. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further announcements, the senator from Preston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Agriculture will meet tomorrow at 2 p.m., 208 West.
The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Health will not meet today.
The senator from Upshur.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Pensions also won't meet today, but it will meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. and 4:51 m.
Further announcements. The senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Republican members will be caucusing in your office immediately following a floor session. I have another meeting that I have to be at.
The senior senator from the 8th.
Mr. President, your Committee on Government Organization will meet today at 2 o'clock, 208 West.
Further announcements. The senator from Wood County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your subcommittee on Senate Bill 111 will meet today at 5 p.m. in room 208 West.
Further announcements? Not, the question before the Senate is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
House will be in order. All those not having privileges to the floor will please vacate the chamber. Members and guests will please rise as we are led in prayer today by Pastor Jim Goforth. He is a guest of the gentleman from the 64th, delegate householder, and also the cousin of the gentleman from the 27th, delegate Gerhard. Pastor Goforth.
Father, we come to you, and Lord, we thank you for the incredible gift of leadership. That God, you've put every one of us in this room in a position on purpose. And Lord, I ask that God, you give us the courage and the guts to do it well, to lead strong. And Father, that as we lead by example and understand we're representing the people that have put us in this room. And Father, I pray that as we do that, that we engage ourselves in every way possible, that Lord, this not be a burden upon us. And Lord, as we do that, we seek to advance the causes of those that put us here for this great state. And so, Father, let us do it with determination. I've sat through listening to several of the politicians in this building, and God, I pray that, Lord, as they face challenges, they face hardships, that, Lord, they don't give up, they don't quit. That right now in their hearts they'll say, I'm going to continue on until I accomplish what you put me here for. And more than anything, as I close, Father, that we do it in humility. And I encourage all my friends here today to just remember that the Bible says that those that humble themselves in the sight of the Lord, that he will lift you up. Father, let that be the case here, that we're humble enough that, Father, we're not afraid to walk across an aisle, that we're not afraid to engage in discussions that are hard so that we can accomplish great things. So lead us, Father. We're counting on you. And we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Members and guests will please remain standing as we're led in the Pledge of Allegiance. John from 62nd, Delegate Overton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With those in the gallery, please join us as we pledge to our country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members may be seated. Clerk has a letter of resignation.
The Honorable Tim Armstead, Speaker, West Virginia House of Delegates. Dear Mr. Speaker, I have been given the great opportunity to fill the vacant seat in the West Virginia Senate created by the resignation of Senator Mullins, and I hereby resign my seat in the West Virginia House of Delegates effective immediately. I have been honored to serve in the House of Delegates, and I look forward to continuing to serve my constituents in the Senate. Sincerely, Lynn Carden Arvon.
Letter will be received. Reading of the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Charleston, Monday, January 22nd, 2018.
Chair recognizes the lady from 65th, Delegate Upson.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the Journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read.
Lady from the 65th asks unanimous consent that further reading of the Journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Journal is approved as having been read. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, today we have a citation presentation honoring Higher Education Day. To receive the citation, we have the presidents of the state colleges and universities. Escorting our guests in the chambers are Delegates Espinoza, Statler, Moy, and Hornbuckle.
Clerk, please read the resolution.
Whereas Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018 is Higher Education Day. And whereas West Virginia's colleges and universities have advanced the knowledge base of our students and helped them to achieve career goals while helping our state to meet the needs of its economy. And whereas West Virginia's colleges and universities have contributed to the advancement of the state and enriched the culture of our communities. And whereas West Virginia's colleges and universities have advanced the development of technology, conducted groundbreaking research, and partnered with business and industry. And whereas West Virginia's colleges and universities, by virtue of their many outstanding contributions to this state, are deserving of honor and recognition on Higher Education Day. Therefore, the House of Delegates hereby acknowledges and commemorates Higher Education Day and bestows its sincere gratitude to the state's independent and public colleges and universities.
Members will please be at ease a moment while I greet our guests and present the citation. Members may be seated. House will please be in order. Lady from the 16th, Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to request a moment of silence. First, I'd like to ask to address, permission to address the House.
The lady from 16th asked now to address the House. Is there objection? Chair has none.
Thank you. They were just being loud, and I got ahead of myself. Would you all please join me in a moment of silence? Yesterday, our dear police chief, Joseph Ciccarelli, lost a very courageous battle with cancer, and he's now in heaven. Will you please join me?
If all of our guests would please join the members in rising for a moment of silence. Members may be seated. Gentleman from the 56th, Delegate Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unanimous consent to address the House.
Gentleman from 56 asks unanimous consent to address the House. Is there objection? Chair is none. Gentleman may proceed.
Unfortunately, I too would like to request a moment of silence for Mineral County Deputy Jeremy Isaiah Franks. I don't know the details, but last night he lost his life.
If members and guests would please rise again for a moment of silence. Members may be seated. Introduction of guests. Lady from the 16th, Delegate Miller.
We have several people from Mr. Carter's class at Marshall University in social work. Would you all please stand? Welcome, all of you. Thank you for being here. And my special guest, Lydia.
John from 62nd, Delegate Overton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the Eastern Panhandle, we have Leadership Berkeley, which is down here to learn about how state government works. I think they chose Charleston rather than Washington because they felt things were running a little more smoothly down here. Would the members of Leadership Berkeley please rise while the House makes them welcome?
John from the 25th, Delegate Painter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the entire Wyoming delegation, I'd like to introduce a great group of kids today for Youth and Government Day. We have a whole balcony full of 8th graders in the north balcony, and they're from all over Wyoming County and all over the 25th District, which as always is the home of the most beautiful land in the world and the most beautiful people in the world. They are chaperoned by Lori Leather, Rusty Huff, Lauren Manning, and Billy Cook. If you'd all stand, and let's give them a big house welcome.
John from 22nd, Delegate Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the 22nd District, 24th, and the 20th, we have my alma mater, Chapmanville Regional High School. If you all would please stand. Good group of people, good group of kids, and they really are a strong point in our community. So I would like for the House to please make them feel welcome.
John from 28th, Delegate Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have 3 introductions to make. The first introduction is on behalf of the 28th and 42nd District delegates. I would like to introduce to you the James Monroe High School Youth and Government Governor, Bryce Dickerson, if he would stand up in the West Gallery. The Youth President, Austin Toney, if he would stand, please. Youth Clerk, Whitney Hunt. And they're chaperoned by Lieutenant Colonel Scott Womack and Beth Elswick, if you two would stand up. And further up in the North Gallery, we have Summers County Middle School here for Youth and Government Day. And that is Lacey Sears, if she would stand up over here to my, there you go. Hallie Rhodes, Ellie Rhodes, Daryl Sharp, Nathan Graham, and they're chaperoned today by Marty Mann, if she would stand. And one further one, just in case no one noticed she was here, is up in the West Gallery. We have Kimberly Gross, who was really nice to work with under the Tomlin administration, and if she would stand up, she may have left. I apologize, Mr. Speaker. Please give these folks a round of applause.
John from the 15th, Doug Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two introductions today. One, I'm not sure which gallery she's in, but Amber Perry is here for Social Worker Day, and she's a friend and constituent from my county, and also her boyfriend happens to work for Foster Supply with us. If you would, make him welcome, or make her welcome. And then also Paige here with us today from Hurricane Middle School. We have Connor. Would he stand up? It's Connor Stone Street, and his chaperone is his mother, if she would stand up in the gallery. All right, thank you.
John from 35th, Doug Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a single introduction, or let's just say on behalf of all the delegates from Kanawha County. In the northern balcony, Lauren Claypool, who is the Chief Operating Officer of HealthSmart, which is an employer of 350 people here in Charleston, and they also are the main administrator of our PEIA policies. Thank you for all you do.
John from the 27th, Doug Ellington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Mercer County delegates, Gearhart, Schott, Painter, and Evans, and myself, we have from New River Community and Technical College, Dr. and President Marshall Washington, and some of his students, if they happen to be in the gallery, if they'd stand and be recognized in the House, make them feel welcome.
John from the 13th, Doug Higginbotham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, there are a lot of college students here today, but we also have Blake Humphreys, who is the student body president of WVU. So if you would please stand and make him feel welcome.
John from the 21st, Doug Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Higher Ed Day, I'm pleased to announce a group from my alma mater, Concord University. With us today is Mr. Andrew Soldier. He's the Director of Student Activities and the Student Center, and he brought with him Concord Student Government Association. Guys, if you would stand and members make them feel welcome.
John from the 54th, Doug Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Driving all the way from Grant County this morning, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to drive down here to make a presentation to the Agriculture Committee is Elizabeth Hours and her dad. They're sitting up there in the North Gallery. If they would stand up, and let's make them welcome. Thank you very much.
John from the 27th, Doug Gerhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome today staff and students accompanying Dr. Krotzing from Bluefield State College. Today we have Brian Boone, Chad Cardwell, Michael Hankins, Amber Sagaday, Dexter Simon, Ivan Walls, Destiny Stephanie, Christopher Rogers, Mike Lilly, Kim Gross, James Schlimmer, Suleiman Nye, and Colin Cavell. Please welcome them to the House. Thank you.
Lady from the 18th, Doug Sabonia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the North Gallery, I'd like for her to stand. We have Hannah Herbert. She is my intern for the year through Marshall University, and she's a Marshall student. If she would stand and please be welcomed. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 10th, Doug Kelly.
Speaker,
Please join Delegate Anderson, Holland, Chris, Deem, and myself in welcoming some of our friends from West Virginia University at Parkersburg, if they'd stand. Vice President of Student Services, Anthony Underwood, Peshka Calloway, Bill Mariner, or Bill Manier, I'm sorry, and David Schutz. Please put your hands together and make our friends feel welcome. Thank you.
John from the 47th, Delegate Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, traveling with the Fairmont State University students, I have a wonderful young lady from Barber County and Philip Barber alumni, Rachel Fitzwater. And I believe she's in the balcony to my left. She would please stand. And I don't see her, but anyway, if the House would make her feel, oh, right over here, okay. If the House would make her feel welcome.
John from the 12th, Delegate Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have several pages here with us today from Ripley Middle School. As I call their names, they'll stand. First one is Aiden D'Amico, Edith Love, Audrey Haskins, Brett Haskins, Hallie Turley, Noah Kessel, Brianna Miller, Mason Flutie, Daniel Rogers, and Evan Barnett. And the last one is Avery Fife. The House and their parents are in the gallery too. The parents would please stand. They're throughout all three galleries. The House, please make them feel welcome.
John from the 35th, Delegate Capito.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad that we have Margaret and Robert Price with us today. If they would stand, they are AARP volunteers from Kanawha County, and on behalf of that delegation, I'd like to welcome them and ask that the rest of the House welcome them as well. Thank you.
John from the 20th, Delegate Markham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the delegates from Mingo County, I would like to welcome from Williamson Pre-K 8 numerous students, Cassidy Griffin, Hunter Runyon, Hayden Norcross, Gideon Eisern, Lynn Barton. If they would stand, they're accompanied by their chaperones today. This is a good group of students, and if the House would make them welcome. Also, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the delegates from Southern West Virginia, I'd like to announce that we have Southern West Virginia Community and Technical College here today, and if the House would also give them a warm welcome.
John from the 23rd, Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With us in the South Gallery, if they would please stand, we have youth and government participants from Madison, Sherman, and Van Middle Schools, if they would stand to be recognized. And as a continuation of the youth and government, it does work. With us from Fairmont State University, we have SGA members Nick Raby and the SGA president, Alex Vance, both from Boone County. If the House would please make them feel welcome.
John from the 17th, Delegate Lovejoy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have in the South Gallery 4 good friends from the Marshall University Social Work Program. I'd like them to stand. Charity King, Mackenzie Heiner, Cassandra Brown, and Mackenzie Wright. Would the House make them feel welcome? Yeah. And additionally, Mr. Speaker, I have with me today a special guest, which is my third child, my son Ethan, who's, don't tell anybody, taking a day off school so that he can learn a little bit here with us. So I appreciate him. Love you very much, son. Glad to have you here.
John from the 26th, Delegate Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to introduce in the South Gallery Ann Pauley. Ann is with us with AARP. She comes every year, and Ann, it is a pleasure to introduce you. If the House would make Ann feel welcome. Also, on behalf of the McDowell delegation, delegates Dean, Painter, and myself, I'd like to introduce students from Youth and Government representing Sandy River Middle School, Southside School, and Mount View Middle School. In the South Gallery, if you'll stand when I call your name, Amber Bailey, Savannah Hickman, Chantel Steele, Sabrina Nunley, Samantha Heffinger, Frankie Shoemate, Destiny Pageant, Danielle Browning, Chloe Dudgeon, and their chaperones for today and the weekend are Anita Prophet and Tate Dudgeons. Please make these fine sons and daughters of McDowell County welcome.
John from 34th, Doggett Boggs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In addition to the, when we had the presentation on the floor this morning, in addition from Glenville State College with Dr. Tracy Pillay, if they were able to make it in the gallery, we also had from Glenville State College, Marty Carver, Dave Hutchinson, Dustin Crutchfield, and Connor Ferguson. If they would stand and members would please make them welcome. Thank you.
John from the 48th, Doggett Miley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Harrison delegates, we have returning guests with us today in the South Gallery representing AARP, Bob and Nellie Orsburn. If they would stand and allow the House to make you feel welcome.
Gentleman from the 50th, Delegate Caputo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the multi-delegate 50th District, I'd like to introduce a very special, did you hear that, Mr. Speaker? Oh, I'm sorry. I said on behalf of the multi-delegate 50th District, I would have some very special guests with us today.
Do it quick. Do it quick.
Got to get it in for the next few years, all right? On behalf of Delegate Longstreth, Delegate Ward, and myself, we have some very special folks with us today from Fairmont State University. We have several students, faculty, and staff, and I think we also have some folks here from Pierpont Community Technical College. Would you all please rise and let the House make you welcome? Thank you very much.
The gentleman from 13th, Doggett Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Paging for us today, and I believe she's sitting right over here, have the stepdaughter of one of the members of Carpenter's local union number 439 here in Charleston, who's also a 7th grader at John Adams Middle School here in Kanawha County. So on behalf of myself and the Kanawha County delegation, Caitlin Thomas, would you please stand? Escorting Caitlin up in the West Gallery is her mother, Karen, and her stepfather, John Laser. Would you please stand in the House, make them feel welcome?
John from the 4th, Doggett Farrow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With us today, we have three fine gentlemen, former students of mine who are scattered around the gallery. But if they would please stand when I call their names. Corey Nollinger from West Liberty, Tyler Keller from Fairmont State, and Andrew Soljet from Concord. Please make them welcome. Thank you.
John from the 43rd, Doggett Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Eisner and me, in the South Gallery, we have a group of faculty and students from the High Rock Academy for Girls. If they would stand, the House make them welcome.
John from 37th, Doggett Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I didn't want Rich to feel left out. Joining us today, as he does many days, in the South Gallery, on behalf of the rest of the Kanawha County delegation, we have Rich Stonestreet, past president of the AARP from here in Charleston, West Virginia. Please make him feel welcome.
John from the 58th, Doggett Coles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have our Doctor of the Day with us from Charleston, West Virginia. Please welcome Dr. Marianne Maurer.
John from the 42nd, Doggett Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Ambler, I'd like to introduce in our South Gallery representative volunteer from AARP, who was my old assistant principal at Greenbrier East High School. He's the one that called my name on graduation a few years back. Please welcome from Lewisburg, Danny Gray. Please make him welcome. Thank you.
To the members, I've just been informed that my daughter's college roommate is somewhere in the gallery, Samantha Adams. I'm not sure exactly where she is. There she is. But I'd ask that she stand in the house, make her welcome. Further introductions. Reports of standing committees.
Your Committee on Roads and Transportation has had under consideration House Bill 2612, repealing section relating to unattended motor vehicles and penalties, reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass and that it be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report be received. The bill be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration House Bill 4047, Board of Examiners of Psychologists, rule relating to Code of Conduct, House Bill 4057, Real Estate Commission, rule relating to requirements for real estate courses, course providers, and instructors, House Bill 4059, rule relating to licensing real estate brokers, and House Bill 4073, Board of Accountancy, rule relating to board rules and rules of professional conduct, reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass and that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report will be received and the bills will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration House Bill 4144 relating to the elimination of film tax credits and House Bill 4146 updating meaning of federal adjusted gross income and certain other terms used in West Virginia Personal Income Tax Act. Reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass.
Report be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration House Bill 4135, updating the meaning of federal taxable income and certain other terms used in the West Virginia Corporation Net Income Tax Act. Reports back to committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 4207, authorizing an online application to receive a commission to act as a notary public and eliminating the bond requirement. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass.
The report be received.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 4035, creating a legislative coalition to study and report to the legislature on palliative care. House Bill 4169, requiring certain establishments and facilities to post human trafficking and assistance notices. House Bill 2483, requiring the Division of Juvenile Services to transfer to a correctional facility or regional jail any juvenile in its custody that has been transferred to adult jurisdiction of the Circuit Court and who reaches his or her 18th birthday. And House Bill 4174, designating the placement of nonpartisan judicial offices on the primary election ballot. Reports back committee substitutes, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitutes each do pass.
The report will be received. Reports of select committees. Messages from the executive. Messages from the Senate.
The Clerk of the Senate announces the passage by the Senate of Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 53, correcting code reference in regard to certain persons exempted from prohibitions against carrying concealed deadly weapons.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 62, adjusting requirements for hiring school attendance directors.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
The Senate has passed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 98, creating incentives to consolidate local governments.
The message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Political Subdivisions and then to Government Organization.
The Senate has passed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 110, requiring certain licensees notify law enforcement of EMS or life-threatening emergency on premises.
The message will be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 133, exempting renewal of certain contracts entered into during declared state of emergency.
The message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization and then the Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 263, eliminating film tax credits.
Message will be received. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 263 is the same as House Bill 4144, which is on first reading tomorrow. In order to sync those up, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the committee reference. The bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Gentleman from the 58th asks unanimous consent that Senate Bill 263, the committee reference be dispensed with regard to Senate Bill 263, to be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk, please read the bill first time.
Senate Bill 263.
Bill be advanced.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 300, creating a 5-year tax credits for businesses locating on post-coal mine sites.
The message will be received. The bill be referred to the Committee on Energy and then to Finance. Resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 27, making Grafton's annual Memorial Day Parade the official state Memorial Day Parade.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading resolutions, and each resolution be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as listed on the Chamber Automation System.
The gentleman from the 58th asks unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions be dispensed with, and each resolution be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the Chamber Automation System. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Each resolution be considered formally introduced and so referred. Petitions, motions, bills introduced.
House Bill 4254, placing a 7-day supply limitation on the amount of Schedule II drugs which can be lawfully prescribed.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and each bill be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as listed on the Chamber Automation System.
The gentleman from the 58th asks unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, each bill be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the Chamber Automation System. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Each bill be considered formally introduced and so referred. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2028, relating to the venue for suits and other actions against the state.
Question before the House is the passage of the bill. The gentleman from the 27th, Doggett Schott, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Yesterday we passed a bill dealing with venue, and you had the opportunity to hear from the Vice Chair of Judiciary a little primer on the difference between jurisdiction and venue. Well, while this is fresh in your mind, we're taking up another venue bill today, but we're really going at it from a different direction. If you'll remember from yesterday's bill, the focus of that bill basically was to prevent the clogging and relieve the clogging of our court system by minimizing the likelihood that those folks that are outside the state, non-residents of the state, who have an action that has very little contact with the state, from bringing those suits in West Virginia courts. Well, the bill before you today, 2028, is a really different direction. This is an opportunity for us to make courts, the access to courts a little more convenient for our own people. By way of background, since 1923, if you were to bring a claim or a suit against an official of the state, whether it be the governor or some agency head, you had to bring that claim here in Kanawha County. That was the only choice you had. The bill before you changes that and is an attempt to provide a more convenient forum for those of you who have a claim, or those of our citizens who have a claim against some state agency or state official. And that would allow you a choice. You can continue to bring it here in Kanawha County as you always could, but you also can bring it in the county where you reside, or you can bring it in the county where the cause of action, the basis for your lawsuit, arose. So this change in the law is in recognition of the advances that we've made over the years in technology and the ability to do things remotely. Nowadays, most court systems are able to allow video depositions, remotely video depositions, remote hearings even, where the judge is in one county and the participants are in different locations. So that's what this bill is intended to do. It's to change basically an outdated requirement on our court system that recognizes the advances that we've made in technology. Mr. Speaker, I urge it to pass.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill? Gentleman from the 63rd, Delegate Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the chairman for bringing this bill up again. This is an identical bill to last year that got stuck in conference committee. Passed the House 98-0 last year, and I think it's far past due to the improvements in technology and to allow access to basically hold our government accountable if there's issues where you think they're not following the law. I appreciate your support.
Other members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question for the House is the passage of the bill. Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 96 ayes, 0 nays, 3 members absent not voting. The majority of members present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk, please report the title.
Committee Subsuper House Bill 2028.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk, please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Bills on second reading.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 2607, extending the maximum period of confinement a judge may impose for certain first-time probationary violations.
Are there amendments?
Nope.
If not, the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
House Bill 2822, allowing honorably discharged veterans who possess certain military ratings to qualify to take an examination for licensing as a plumber, electrician, and sprinkler fitter.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Cooper moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Cooper 1-23, number 1.
The gentleman from 28th, Delegate Cooper, asks unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Gentleman from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're simply striking the enacting section of the bill. Nothing about the bill is changing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further members desiring to speak to the adoption of the amendment? If not, question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor of adoption will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
House Bill 2838, allowing military veterans who meet certain qualifications to qualify for examination for license as an emergency medical technician.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Cooper moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Cooper 1-23, number 1.
The gentleman from the 28th, Delegate Cooper, asks unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Gentleman from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the same as the previous bill. We're just changing or striking the enacting section. The content of the bill and the intent of the bill has had no changes made to it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the adoption of the amendment? If not, the question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Bills on first reading.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 2916, authorizing certain first responders to carry firearms.
Bill be advanced.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 3004, relating to filling vacancies in offices of state officials, United States senators, justices, judges, and magistrates.
Bill be advanced.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 3005, relating to regulation of unmanned aircraft systems.
Bill be advanced.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 4150, prohibiting telecommunications and IP-enabled voice services from displaying the name or telephone number of the recipient.
Bill be advanced. Leaves of absence. Gentleman from the 58th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, delegates Byrd, Storch, and White.
Without objection, leaves will be granted. Remarks by members of the House. John from the 27th, Delegate Gerhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it may not surprise you today that I rise in a state of confusion. May not surprise the members here either. My confusion comes from attempting to make a logical progression from the State of the Union speech last year to the State of the Union speech this year. Last year, the governor came before this body and presented to us a budget that was short on income and long on spending. And then he proposed an additional $120 million worth of spending. He proposed a 2% pay raise for teachers. And then on top of that, he proposed a $450 million tax increase. We passed a budget that included none of that. None of that. This year, the governor's come to this body and indicated that we have a better circumstance with regard to income as it relates to spending. And he's happy about that, all from a budget that he didn't sign. This year, we have also new spending proposed, almost $50 million to commerce, 14 million of that in an advertising fund in different forms of advertising and marketing and brand circumstance, and $35 million worth of that in a variety of items for the development department to make sites ready or make the state more attractive to business. We also have an additional $7 million in new spending to a community college fund that would pay, I guess, last dollars or pay tuition for students of community and technical colleges. Last year, the governor implored us to pass a 2% pay increase for teachers, something that we absolutely had to do, and frankly, there was no money to do it. It didn't happen. However, this year when he came to us with a pay increase for teachers, that was cut in half to 1%. I can't quite follow the progression from one to the other. If we needed 2% last year, and if it was really urgent last year, it seems like 1% is not quite what we ought to do, particularly when it appears, there may be some arguments about that, I guess, but it appears that there may be money available to accommodate what was really needed last year. It's very difficult to understand. On occasion, my friend, colleague, the finance chair, will bemoan the fact that I'm not always as quick to tell him what I intend to do as he might like. So today, he'll have that intention, and all of you all will know that. I find it necessary for us to fulfill our constitutional duty and keep good teachers in the classroom to provide what we're required to do, to provide an education for students here in West Virginia, to find a way to get teacher pay increased some, particularly now that we have money available to do that. In questioning the education folks, they indicate that it takes about $12.7 million to bring on a 1% pay raise. We've got a 1% pay raise already imposed. I am going to suggest that out of the additional dollars, and this would come from those three line items, the $49 million in commerce and from the development line and the advertising line for tourism, and this $7 million from the community and technical colleges, that we find an additional $20 million to commit to education in the form of a teacher pay raise, which would be an additional about 1.5%. I think that we can do that. I think the governor was spot on last year when he said we need to do that. However, I also think this body was extremely responsible in recognizing that last year's budget didn't allow it. I think this year's budget does allow it, coupled with the fact that they weren't able to get that raise last year and the enormous amount of aggravation that we are all hearing from public employees and teachers in particular with regard to their insurance program and PEIA and the Go 365. I think this is the minimal that we should do. And I'll ask you all, I have no idea how the budget's going to form up, and that comes out of the Finance Committee, and the chairman will do that. But if we're not able to do this, I certainly plan to offer it to this body for consideration. And at that point in time, I'm going to ask for your support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from the 1st, Douglas Tesla.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is indeed a different time for the state of West Virginia. I've been here for 3 years. I'm particularly happy to see young people in the gallery today because what I have to say definitely has much to do with them as much as anybody in this chamber. It is certainly this year quite a bit more a place of optimism. This chamber is quite a bit more a place of optimism than it has been in past years. And there is no doubt there are good reasons for that optimism. We are embarking on a journey that I have not seen, where we don't have a hole in the present budget so that we can budget next year without worrying to a great degree about this year. But there's more to it, and it's really exciting to me. We are in the midst of what I can only term a perfect storm of opportunity and the proper people in the proper places. And by that I mean this: we have world-class economic people and who understand the development of energy in our institutions. At WVU, we have them in Marshall and several other places in the state. They can help us formulate a strategy for using the resources that we have in this state. In addition to that, there has been an influx, and we're not certain how much of an influx of capital into the state to deal with energy issues in the coming years. And by that I mean simply this: the federal government has okayed an application for $1.9 billion for an energy hub to hold liquids that are taken from the natural gas under our feet and to be made into products such as plastics and that type of thing. This is immense. This is a very big thing. It gets us a little bit more into we can directly compete with other states and other places in the world, actually. It's a matter of fact, the Department of Energy, Secretary Rick Perry of the federal government has posted 2 people to West Virginia to see that this storage hub gets its proper hearing and proper planning. In addition, of course, I think you've all heard that a memorandum of understanding has been signed with the government of China. I think this is largely due to the work that WVU did with the Chinese energy company, a company which has 300,000 employees. We were able to help them make that energy company go a lot better than what it does and act like a utility does in the world today. For that, we have an $83 billion memo of understanding, memorandum. I can't tell you what that does for us. There are things that we can do now because we have capital to invest if we choose to take a path where we use our resources wisely. This investment is a two-edged sword. There are things that we have to do and challenges that remain so that we can make this come to fruition. It is critical that we do this. And the Energy Committee is about to embark upon a series of bills that will help us do that. My great concern, and the reason I rise today, is very simple, and I hope you all take this away from the chamber today. If we do not more efficiently remove resources, natural gas and natural gas liquids, and compete with the states around us, I have a great fear, and that fear is very simple. A guaranteed supply is what people who do manufacturing and people who use the resources that we have under our feet like to see before they bring billions of dollars to this state and use it to manufacture things. And the biggest fear of all, if we do not do these things and compete, well, guess where we'll be? We'll be back at square one where, quote, they take our energy and leave us nothing. Well, I'll be darned if I'm going to let that happen without weighing in on it, speaking to the best of my ability, because I have special interest groups to take care of here. And who are those special interest groups? People who want jobs, people who want prosperity, and last but certainly not least, people who, like me, absolutely refuse to utter the words, "They take our energy and they leave us nothing." When these bills come up, I would appreciate all your consideration. And if you want to know the motive, I've just outlined it to you. Thank you very much.
The gentleman from the 28th or the 58th.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And ladies and gentlemen, just a couple minutes of your time. I'd like to talk on Higher Education Day, the view from my area of the state, my district. You know, I wonder what it's about. The students from the eastern part of the state. There is a divide, I guess, the Eastern Continental Divide, but on the other side, my district side, the 20-somethings are treated somewhat differently than the 20-somethings on this side of the Eastern Continental Divide. And I struggle to figure out why. Certainly there's nothing wrong or inferior about the 20-something students on that side of the hill. But it's clear the legislature treats the Eastern 20-somethings different. I just don't know why. It's not in Promise Scholarship. Promise Scholarship is applied evenly across the state with the same standards. It's not the higher education grant. It's applied evenly across the state, same standards. It's not the HEAPS grant. It's applied evenly. Rather, it's the continuing budget allocation that treats the Eastern schools differently, the Eastern students differently. And what I would like to suggest is that if the reason is because it's always what we've done, we should try something different. There's $10 million new dollars to go into higher education apparently in the proposal this year. If that's the case, I would suggest maybe we try to reset that allocation into a more fair standard. Not create a new program, Mr. President, Governor Justice. Rather reset the formula that we have today. I've shared with you before the Blue Ridge issue, where Blue Ridge Community and Technical College, the students that go to Blue Ridge get half, a fraction of the students and their sister institutions across the state. Is a 20-something on our side of the hill worth a fraction of the 20-something on this side? I don't think so. But I'd also like to share with you that it doesn't end there. West Virginia University has two arms. One arm is West Virginia Tech, WVU Tech in Beckley. The other arm is WVU Kaiser, Potomac State, and Kaiser, West Virginia. Those schools are almost exactly the same size. Yet the allocation in the budget for Tech is $7.4 million. Over on the other side of the hill in Kaiser, it's $3.6. The Eastern student gets $3,100 less per year in state budget allocation. At Tech, it's about $6,000 per student, and at Potomac State, it's about $2,900. That's a whopping $12,400 less than a four-year college degree for the student on that side of the hill, the 20-something over there. But Shepherd University is another great example. It is almost exactly to the student the same size as Fairmont State University. Yet Shepherd gets $9.4 million in direct subsidy from the state budget, while Fairmont gets $14.6 million. That means their students, or the students from my area on our side of the hill, get $1,400 less per year in state allocation. And it's for those reasons that I think we should consider the proposal for the funding model. Some funding model that resets that calculation and invests in the young people on that side of the hill the same as this side. What I've been reluctant to do, and I've heard from you, that it's difficult to shift money from one institution to another. I can't cut West Virginia State and plug it in at Shepherd. I can't cut New River and move it over to Eastern. But if there's new money to be added to higher education and you would like a return on your investment, I would suggest to you, my friends, to the governor, to the Senate president, that we look closely at a funding model and invest equally in the 20-somethings on our side of the hill. They are certainly worthy of it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from the first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I ask just unanimous consent that the remarks by the gentleman from Hancock County and from Mercer County be entered into the appendix of the journal.
So it will be done. The gentleman from the 25th District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I would like to concur with my friend from the 27th on what he said. As we all know, teaching's a pretty thankless job. We have the opportunity here to actually help these folks out a little this year. For years, we've withheld pay raises for promises of more benefits, it's the PEI and all that. And as we all know, that hasn't worked out too well for them. Instead of the continuous mandates we throw at the teachers, let's actually throw them a lifeline and a little help and try to make their lives a little easier for ones instead of adding more to their load. Before we can ever hope to attract more teachers, we got to try to figure out how to keep the teachers we got. And what my colleague from the 27th said is a great way to help us start doing that. If we could, the money's in the budget, it's just a matter of getting it from one place to the right place. And I feel certain we can all do that, and God knows our kids will thank us for it. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 56th, Doug Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the comments by the gentleman from the 58th be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, remarks be printed in the appendix of the journal. Gentleman from the 36th, Doug Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we do need to address higher education. I would point out that, to the gentleman that we all want our schools and students to be treated equitably. Now, whether that's based on pure head count or not, that's something to be considered. But I think the gentleman knows that we are studying exactly the issues that were requested to be studied that he was talking about, whether there's a disparity in higher education funding. But I think to match that and compare that to the new program that the governor's proposed, that the Senate is going to meet on today in education, where we would actually help a different group. You know, maybe not the 20-some millennials, but the people who average age of 29 years in community and technical college. Now, grasp who these people are that we want to help. People who have an average age of 29 years. That means they've got kids at home, they've got jobs to juggle, and somehow they have to come up with an extra $1,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 for tuition to go to a community college. Now, the program that's being discussed is something we've talked about on the floor last year, and it's pretty simple. It's a program where we would provide a promised scholarship-like scholarship, a Hope Scholarship, if you will, to students who would attend either community and technical college or career centers, such as in Kanawha County, Ben Franklin, and some of the career centers that are around the state. And what we would be doing is it would be a last dollar scholarship. The estimated cost of helping this whole group of people would be about $2 million for the folks who are coming out of high school, and about $5.5 million for adult learners. Now, this introduces a whole new group of people into a new culture of higher education and learning. And these would be the folks that we so desperately, we hear time after time that workforce can't find the trained workers that we need if we're going to have a factory come in. We hear that every single week in every single session. This is the secret. This is the way that we can produce those. The Senate bill has two components. One would be to have the students who are in high school have specified programs that they would get from the CTC so that they could accelerate their education in high school so that they can come out either with a degree or very quickly get a CTC degree or certificate. Now, what this means is that factories like Toyota and companies in the Eastern Panhandle who are desperate for trained workers can specify a program that helps them with their electronic and technical needs, and they can get students to come out of high school and go straight into those programs and get the degrees much quicker than starting after they graduate. That's called the ACE program, and that affects and helps high school students. But also they can go in, doesn't have to be technical, they can go into community college programs. The other part of it is a scholarship to encourage people to go to community and technical colleges. And as adults, we have so many people who've lost all hope of having a job, lost all hope of ever being able to get an education that would allow them to break out of the chains of poverty and despair that they live with every day, and that, let's face it, that drives them and their families to opioid dependence. This is a real chance that we can reach out to a group of folks who we don't serve and who we don't help when we need to. Now, what it will do also is provide funding for community and technical colleges. You know, we made major cuts across the board for community and technical colleges. They raised the tuitions to try to make up for those cuts, and of course they lost about 20% of their population. What we see in Tennessee and in Oregon is about a 20% increase in attendance at CTCs, where they just open the doors in their community college programs. It's an affordable program. It's something we can do for a specific audience. It will fulfill our workforce needs, and it's affordable, and it will, number one, we call on our side, we're working on a bill that's called a Hope Scholarship. It gives people hope. We've heard that every time we talk about opioid crisis. If folks could just have the hope of a job, the hope that they can get the training that they need in order to get a job, that it changes the culture of communities, it will change the culture of West Virginia. So it's an apples and oranges when we talk about existing schools and funding schools versus how do we provide the sources to individuals to be able to go back to school where they're being barred because of the high cost of tuition. This is not an expensive program. It's a visionary program. The governor has already put the money in the budget. It's my understanding that there's $7 million in the budget ready to go for this program. I think we just need to look at that and understand the vision that the governor has and that the Senate's working on as we speak this afternoon. So I hope that people will keep an open mind in two ways: that we endorse the senator from the Eastern Panhandle, or the delegates from the Eastern Panhandle's ideas that we need to be equitable in the funding we provide directly to schools. No problem with that. But we've got to come up with some hope for the people who we've left behind, that they can get the skills they need in order to be effective in the workforce. It also says to employers that we will train the folks, we will have the workers that you need available, and all we need to do is to get those employers here in West Virginia. So, Mr. Speaker, I would urge that the members have an open mind about the new program that the governor's proposing. I think that this body needs to get on board and have its program and make sure that we're able to get the best possible scholarship and new workforce training programs that we can possibly get. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John from the 28th, Delegate Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm almost tempted to say I'm not going to say anything. Usually we stand up here and say I wasn't going to speak today. Well, I've been planning to speak for the last 45 minutes, and most of what I was going to say has been said, and very eloquently, I might add, especially by the gentleman to my immediate right here. But let me give you a quick history lesson. A quick history lesson. First of all, let me tell you about a movie. And one of those movie lines in that movie, the new movie was "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" and I liked it only because of the songs. I thought it was a terrible story and it ruined a classic. But I still liked the movie. But one of the lines was, "We're in a tight spot." Folks, we're in a tight spot. We're in a tight spot on a lot of fronts. But one place we're in a tight spot is in the area of the way we treat our education community, and I'm talking mostly about public education grades K through 12. Although to agree with the gentleman from Kanawha would be appropriate at this time as well. We need to do something in the way of those scholarships. That's why I introduced a bill 2 years ago to do that. But anyway, we're in a tight spot. Now the history lesson. In 1986, I taught my first year. Brand new teacher, 39 years old, been in the Navy for 20 years and seen a couple of things, and came home to teach elementary school. Got paid $14,900 that year, I believe, somewhere in that neighborhood. For that $14,900, I could have went to the local Ford dealership, and we actually had one at the time, and bought a medium-priced, medium-sized car for half of that year's pay. It would have been a Ford Taurus or Sable or something like that, but that's about what they cost, $7,500 new. Today, a beginning teacher starting out makes somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000, depending on the lack of or the availability of a county levy. And I don't think any of us have bought a medium-sized car appropriately equipped for half of that for many years. Today, to buy that medium-sized price car would cost that teacher the whole year's pay and maybe even more. I spoke to one of the delegates yesterday, and I thought he was driving kind of a cheap car, and he informed me he gave $36,000 for it. Nice car. Then I priced a Ford pickup truck, which used to be the cheapest of all things, $52,000. So we're in a tight spot here. $30,000 a year sounds like big money until you start having to buy electric service and phone service and a car and insurance. So there's a senator over at the far end of the hall out here that said this 1% raise was a slap in the eye or a finger in the eye or something. And if you all recall, I said the very same thing 4 years ago, sitting over there where next to where Delegate Wagner is, when I said we were spitting in the eye of the service workers, and we were. We have let this occupation get so far behind that we can't afford to catch them up. Now, how do you tell them that? How do we tell them that? And now we give them a little 1% raise and then raise their PEIA premiums to the point where that raise is gone. I'm on Social Security, as a lot of you in here are. So I get a little raise on my Social Security this year and lose it all right back to the Medicaid Part B or whatever it is, Medicare Part B, whatever it is. That's what we're doing to our teaching people. And we're in a tight spot here because I think they've just about had enough. Now, we can't afford. We can't afford with our budget, and I know a little about numbers. We can't afford to double a starting teacher's pay or raise it 30%. We can't afford to do that. But I'll tell you what we can afford to do. We can afford to make sure that no teacher worries about losing a job. We can make sure that no teacher worries about their school budget being cut for one reason or another. And we can make sure that that teacher's day at work is worry-free when it comes for health care and the affordability of that health care for her family. Because that brings me to another point. Most teachers in this state are not men. Men are the minority in education. The women who teach school in this state most often are the head of household, and when they leave that school building, they go home, wash clothes, and do all those things that mommies have to do in addition to being a teacher. We're in a tight spot. We are in a spot that we can't afford to get out of. So I suggest, above all else, we make sure the governor is aware of his responsibility in this PEIA debacle. We make sure that the whole community is aware that we're working on it. Because there are forces going on around us, folks. It's going to make us look pretty bad if we don't get something in gear and get it there quick. When I learned to drive, my dad was trying to tell me how to use a clutch. And I was sitting in the truck with the gas pedal wide open and not letting the clutch out. And he said, "Son, let the clutch out. The fan won't pull it." Folks, we've got to let the clutch out on this PEIA problem because the fan is not going to pull this truck the place we need it to be pulled. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John from the 17th, Ira Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask unanimous consent that the remarks just given by the gentleman from the 28th be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, remarks be printed in the appendix of the journal. Gentleman from the 16th, Delegate Romine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask unanimous consent that the comments made by the gentlelady from the 16th District concerning the death of our police chief be recorded in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, remarks be printed in the appendix of the journal. Gentleman from the 19th, Delegate Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I speak to this body today on behalf of a lot of frightened people all across the state. School employees, both teachers and service personnel, are weighing their love of their jobs against their fear that they are going to lose their benefits, effectively reducing their pay, or even lose the little security they have in their jobs through seniority and other things, through transfers, things like that. As a teacher, I can tell you from personal experience that we receive little praise on a regular basis. The best we can usually hope for is a message from a former student who, looking back, appreciates the effort we put in, or in special cases, made an impact on their lives. Today we've heard an outpouring of sympathy for public school employees, teachers in particular. I hope that concern is genuine, and I have no reason to doubt that it is. But I also believe that the outrage seen across the state from school employees has a lot to do with it. So please, don't forget what was said here today by members of both parties. And I plan to conclude this speech by asking this body to give teachers and service personnel a reason to stay in West Virginia. After I thought about it, however, I realized that I already have a reason to stay. My students and my community are my reason to stay here in West Virginia. That's the reason I stay here and teach for lower pay, reduced benefits, and less security. And I know that other teachers in this state must feel the same way, or they'd already be gone. So, given that, I will not ask this body to give me a reason to stay here in West Virginia because I already have one. But I will ask you to make it worth my while. We're going to stay. We just want a little appreciation when we do. Thank you.
Gentleman from 37th, Delegate Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask unanimous consent to return to the second order of business for the purpose of making an introduction.
Without objection, the gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we're joined in the South Gallery by a Bronze Star recipient from the Iraq War. We have Captain Aaron Scheinberg, who is and I believe Captain Scheinberg is in town to file to run for Congress here in West Virginia's 2nd District.
Further remarks by members. Gentleman from the 55th, Delegate Spinago.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request with unanimous consent that the remarks made by the gentleman from the 19th be placed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, gentleman's remarks be placed in the appendix of the journal. Further remarks. Miscellaneous business. Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, subject to announcements, I move the House adjourn until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Are there announcements? Gentleman from the 35th, Delegate Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, the House Finance Republican members shall meet up in the House Committee Room at 4 p.m. today. Then the Total Committee shall meet tomorrow to continue budget hearings at 9 a.m. We'll hear from the Department of Environmental Protection, and then again at 2 p.m., the Department of Agriculture and the Conservation Agency. The committee will also be addressing legislation both in the morning and the afternoon, and the agenda shall be posted here this afternoon. Thank you.
Gentleman from 33rd, Delegate Hanshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 announcements this afternoon. First, the Republican members of the House will have a caucus in this room in 15 minutes at 12:45. And secondly, the Committee on Judiciary will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We'll have the agenda for that posted later today. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 51st, Delegate Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet Wednesday at 2 p.m. in the Education Committee room. The agenda will be posted.
Lady from the 49th, Delegate Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Health and Human Resources will meet at 2 o'clock in room 215E. The agenda is posted, and a reminder, the Republicans will caucus in the chairman's office at 1:30.
The lady from the 32nd, Delegate Kessinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on the Prevention and Treatment of Substance Abuse will meet today at 3:30 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee Room.
Jump to the 48th, Delegate Hamrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet tomorrow, January 24th at 3 p.m. in the House Government Organization Committee Room, 215E. The agenda is posted.
Jump from the 8th, Delegate Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like the members of the House Energy Committee, the Republican members, to caucus in my office at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Thank you.
Jump from the 39th, Delegate Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on Pensions and Retirement will not meet today at 4 o'clock. Again, it will not meet today. Thank you very much.
Jump from the 1st, Delegate McGeehan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Vet Affairs and Homeland Security is going to meet tomorrow, 1 o'clock p.m. up in House Education. The agenda will be posted.
The gentleman from 61st, Delegate Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democrats will caucus in House Gov Org immediately following the floor session.
Gentleman from the 5th, Delegate Pethel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Democrats on the Energy Committee will be caucusing with the chairman at 2:30 today in his office, and that's 200 East Wing. That's for the Democrats on the Energy Committee. Thank you.
Further announcements. Not requested for the House is a motion by the gentleman from the 58th. The House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow. All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the House adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.